Hello, hello, hello. I hope you all are doing well. It is a Mercury hour on technically it's still a Mercury day. It is Thursday, actually. But it's early enough in the morning so that it's still Mercury day, which is Wednesday, if that makes any sense. So, yeah, so happy Mercury day, soon to be Jupiter day. Hope everybody had a good new moon in Cancer. Pretty emotional, pretty epic with the conjunction to the dog star Sirius. So lots of new big beginnings. And I feel like it's all leading up to, just as astrology does, it kind of builds to a preparation for another aspect, another transit. And so it's kind of like these themes that are connected to certain types of events that can bring about or spark changes, like big changes. Just to kind of get some background of what's been going on, we had that new moon in Cancer last on the 5th of July, and that was conjunct the United States sun, so it was the sun's solar return on the 4th, so they're both at 14 degrees Cancer, which means Sirius is conjunct the U.S. sun. Yes, we have some energies that have just moved into Leo. So Mercury moved into Leo on the 2nd, and that, probably is playing out as it usually does every year, like audible audacity. Like people are a lot more confident with their decisions and a little more impulsive with their actions and their transactions. And Leo as an archetype likes to adorn itself. With Mercury in Leo, there's the tendency of really being able to talk yourself into treating yourself. So there's also an opposition from Pluto in Aquarius, which can feel like Pluto represents power struggles, and so there could have been some sort of and Pluto's also like paranoia, kind of like the shadow side of things. So it could have played out in a number of ways. If you were one of the other fellow fixed signs, Scorpio or Aquarius, then you might have had people worried about having said or done something to offend you, because there might have been a lack of communication, or like a perceived lack of communication, where maybe you didn't feel like responding to some people right away for one reason or another. So Pluto in Aquarius opposing Mercury in Leo could be the, oh no, are you mad at me? Why aren't you texting me back? So that could have been playing out. Also have Venus moving into Leo in a couple days on the 11th, and so Venus in the sign of Leo, Leo is very grand and likes expensive things, likes to put on a show, likes the attention, and Venus is going to want that in relationships. So if you think about Venus being the ruler of Libra is all about relationships and reciprocity, and so we can see this playing out in our relationships, where we could be wanting more and wanting more attention from our partners or our friends, or whoever we are in relationships with. And as the ruler of the South Node in Libra and the opposition to Pluto in Aquarius, so anytime a new planet moves into Leo, it's going to automatically oppose Pluto in Aquarius. And again, Pluto's power struggles, and it really makes you see the shadow sides of whatever that opposing planet represents. So with Venus, it's going to be the shadow sides of relationships, the shadow sides of what you desire, money, the things that beauty, aesthetics, relationships, all the shadow sides of those things will be highlighted, because Pluto is a shining light on those things. And so with the ruler of the South Node in Libra, Venus in Leo, opposing Pluto, we're going to see some of the more unsavory sides of relationships that we are ready to let go of. We're going to see these sides of relationships that are meant to be released because of that South Node in Libra, South Node is where we are learning to do without. We're learning to let go of those tendencies, those overused skills. You know, like there's a light and shadow side of every sign. And with Libra's great at collaborating and seeing both sides of the story and being fair and like being very just and balanced. And on the shadow side, there's the tendency of indecisiveness and bending over backwards for the relationship and sacrificing your own needs for, you know, the good of the group. And so there's going to be a lot of releasing. I mean, this entire year, and on to next year is going to be a lot of releasing. So that's just something that we have to get used to. We have to make room. We have to clear space for all the new things to come in, because we are in a huge shift. And we have to also remember that every planet that moves into Leo is going to oppose Pluto. So there's that new energy of tension that we haven't experienced in our lifetime, with particularly Pluto in Aquarius and like squaring the fixed signs, squaring Scorpio and Aquarius, and opposing Leo. And it's got to be very difficult for Leo placements, because Leo just wants to, and like Leo's very big-hearted, wants to have a good time, you know, wants to shine a light on everybody, and especially themselves, and just wants to have a like a heart-filled experience. And with Pluto in Aquarius opposing that, the shadow sides of Leo, which also includes celebrities and higher up people that are in royalty, is going to be highlighted over the next 20 years. Aside from the few months that it dips back into Capricorn, when Pluto dips back into Capricorn, then we'll see the system of hierarchy really, we'll see the shadows of the hierarchy really be exposed, and we've got to kind of prepare ourselves for that. We've got to mentally and emotionally and physically prepare ourselves for that. Like, as if we can physically take care of ourselves, like our body, like purge, detoxify, get rid of anything that we know is not good for us, then we can have a clearer channel to be able to receive intuitive insight that we know to be true, that are in alignment with the divine, with, you know, what we know our intuition has been telling us for who knows how long. And so when we get clear with our health, we can really receive those messages and make empowered decisions. And so that way we are mentally stable, and we can ground ourselves with all the changes that are coming. So we are not bent out of shape. I mean, this is going to be a big year, and even this week. So Venus and like all the planets moving into Leo. The Sun doesn't move into Leo for another few weeks, so Cancer still have their season until the 21st, I believe. Let's see, so that is on the 11th, and then we can feel a building of this energy of Mars, which is the ruler of our North Node, coming to a conjunction with Uranus, which is the ruler of Aquarius, which is where Pluto is. And these two planets, Mars and Uranus, are in the sign of Taurus, and Taurus is an earth sign, another fixed sign. So the fixed signs are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. And so these are stubborn fixed signs that do not like change. And the planet Uranus is all about change. It's like it thrives on change. It is the big dismantler. Like, it is the, gosh, I forgot what is her name. Aubrey Stars calls it the big cosmic fixer or something like that. So it really just kind of demolishes structures that are too stagnant and that are pretty much obsolete. And Mars meeting up with Uranus, Mars is the planet of will, war, aggression, goals as well. So this has been kind of a long time coming. You know, Mars and Uranus have not been in a conjunction in the sign of Taurus since 1942. And yeah, some of the things that I wanted to mention about this particular transit was how rare this is in the sign of Taurus. And in 1942, that was during World War II, and that was when Neptune was in Virgo. So right now Neptune is in Pisces, and it's interesting because when Mars and Uranus were conjunct at around 26 degrees, Neptune was in Virgo at 29 degrees. Right now Neptune is in Pisces at 29 degrees. So these are at anaretic degrees where the extreme vibrations of these archetypes of Virgo and Pisces are at play with Mars conjunct Uranus in the sign of Taurus. And the nice thing about this energy is that their Mars and Uranus is sextile to Neptune. This time it's in Pisces. Neptune is at 29 degrees retrograde, so it's going backwards. So they're within like three or less than 3 degrees sextile. So there is a cooperative aspect happening, and Mars is the ruler of the North Node, and so with this activity, this action happening with Uranus, we can trust that this is meant to happen. Like, this is for our soul's evolution, this is for our collective evolution, and as disruptive as this may be, this is really part of the plan. This is part of the big picture. With Mars and Uranus in Taurus and Neptune in Pisces, there is the cooperative aspect, but it doesn't always mean that positive events are going to take place. There can also, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, we can look back at it in disbelief and wonder and gratitude for what had happened, because had, you know, these X, Y, Z events not happened, then we would not have been able to pursue, you know, ABC. Whatever it might be, however things play out, it's, you know, part of the divine plan, and we have to trust that. Now is the time, with all of these cooperative aspects, to trust that universe knows what it's doing. I mean, humans on Earth have managed to, I mean, for lack of a better term, like, kind of screw ourselves over with our, you know, just pillaging the Earth. And so now is kind of like Earth's reckoning. This is like a big time of reckoning on so many levels, for so many different cultures and subcultures, and for Earth for sure. And another energy that is at play in conjunction to Mars and Uranus is the fixed star Algol. And I've mentioned Algol before in a couple other videos, but it's connected to the Medusa myth, and the star Algol is considered to be the third eye of Medusa in the constellation Perseus. And so Perseus was the one who slayed Medusa and uses her head, her like snake hair head, as a weapon. And so anybody that comes into eye contact with the Medusa head also freezes. And so if you look back even further than that, and which is difficult to find, you know, like, these myths are very limited, and over time, like, I feel like there's going to be new perspectives about these myths that are coming to surface, because, you know, all these myths have been written from a patriarchal point of view, and it's really hard to find a perspective that is written pre-patriarchal from, like, the female's perspective. So Medusa was, you know, before she had her head chopped off and was accused of, I mean, she was accused of all sorts of things, like being a temptress because Poseidon raped her, but there's like this whole other backstory that is not disclosed in most of the stories that you find online. So you really have to really dig for the perspective of, you know, told from a female perspective, like from Medusa's perspective. And even from the perspective of, oh gosh, Athena, who's, you know, where this rape took place, like, Medusa was a student of Athena. She was in Athena's temple learning to be this chaste, you know, like, fair virgin. And, like, even Athena's, like, one of Athena's reasons for punishing Medusa was to keep other men from harming her. And so there's this protective quality, or protective, I guess, slant on the story as well. There's also the perspective of, upholding the patriarchy and not confronting Poseidon about the rape, the violation. So yeah, there's a lot of different stories that are not being disclosed, and so I feel like with this conjunction to Uranus and Mars, this is also kind of disrupting the myth of Medusa. And so the myth of Medusa having this like very tainted view on how she's perceived, in my opinion, is going to crumble, and there's like going to be a dismantling of this perception, and so that a new one can emerge, like the truth can emerge. And this is in a sextile to Neptune in Pisces. And so we can see this play out in several different ways. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who have felt the energies of Algol at 26. Like, so if you have anything at 26 Taurus, 26 degrees Taurus, then you might have experienced these feelings of being shamed, or, like shining too bright, or just being a scapegoat. There's some sort of righteousness that people don't vibe with. Like whatever, even something as simple as just whatever it might be, like just having a good hair day or something. Like, and you walk out and for no reason at all, you get some side eye or slack, or someone cuts you off, or it could play out in so many different ways. While the person next to you could have the same look, or you say something and maybe it plays out in the workplace where you have an idea, and or you have a comment, like a really simple comment, and you're persecuted for it, when someone else can say or do the same exact thing and nobody blinks an eye. It's that kind of a feeling. And these asteroid goddesses have that kind of plutonic feeling, where there's a shadow side. There's this like shadow that that emerges, that people don't want to admit to, or they are ashamed of it. And it's just been like this freaking, how many generations of this of dealing with this patriarchal view of being who you are. And so this is going to be a big shift in the feminine energies, like the trans-Plutonian asteroid vibes. And another thing that happened in 1942, when this conjunction happened with Mars, Uranus, and Algol, was the role of women during the war. So men were, going to war, fighting on the battlefield, and so that meant that there were a lot fewer men in the States, or like in the home country, to fill the positions for so many other roles, like doctors and professors and lawyers, and all these other positions that were vacant and needed to be filled, and the men were at war. And so that gave women an opportunity to step into those roles and play a different role than the typical housewife. And also women were allowed to be drafted into the war as nurses, and like kind of, I guess, behind the scenes, like not on the battlefield. But now we've come 2024, I've heard of males and females being automatically drafted into war, which is nuts. Like, I am not up and up on the details, but that would be crazy if that was mandated. But I mean, again, this is like, there's so many scare tactics to make citizens comply with the narrative, and like just keep this war machine going. So yes, the Mars-Uranus conjunction with Algol, I feel like, is going to be the dismantling of the role of scapegoat. And scapegoats are also black sheeps, black sheep of the family. When you're trying to, you notice, you observe, and you see things that are happening in the family that are not healthy. And so when you try to talk about those things, you're the bad person. And so nobody wants to speak to you. It's like toxic family math. So it's going to be a big shift, and it's going to be very uncomfortable for a lot of us. But you know, it's like birthing pains. I feel like we're at the crux of the major shift and renewal. Like I consider this to be the great renewal. I mean, it's also an awakening. You can think about this as a rebirth. You know, I feel like when Pluto comes out of Capricorn and like stays in Aquarius, like the 20-year cycle of Pluto through Aquarius will be this long birthing process. And we just started like the contractions. I feel like we just started the contractions with Pluto in Aquarius, and we are definitely not like having this rebirth of beliefs, a rebirth of life as we know it, and our systems, our federal systems, government systems, are going to be uprooted. And there's another thing that I found interesting back in 1942, that was during World War II. Jupiter was also in Gemini, and the nodes were in Virgo and Pisces, so the North Node was in Virgo, and the South Node was in Pisces. Come January, we are going to have the North Node in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo. So, and Jupiter will still be in Gemini for another 6 months. In 1942, Pluto was in Leo at 3 degrees, which is the opposite of what we have now. Pluto's in Aquarius. It's at 1 degree going backwards, but you know, come January of next year, we're going to have like the flip version, and this is considered also to be like the shadow side. So if you take a birth chart and you place the planets in the opposite sign of where they are, then that's considered to be the shadow side. Like if I were to take my birth chart and like put the planets in the opposite sign, so if the sun were, my sun and Mercury are in Pisces, and so my shadow side is, my shadow version is Sun and Mercury in Virgo, and then Jupiter, my Jupiter is actually conjunct Algol, so it's conjunct this Mars-Uranus transit. And so if I were to put my Jupiter in Scorpio, that would be part of the shadow chart. And so not only is Pluto in the opposite sign, or was in the opposite sign in 1942, Neptune was in Virgo, and that's the opposite of what we have now. Neptune is in Pisces at 29 degrees as well. Mercury and Venus were in Aquarius in the same decan, so right now we have Mercury in Leo at 12 degrees, and then Venus is about to enter Leo, so it's still in Cancer at the moment. But in 1942, like the end of February, beginning of March, Mercury was at 13 degrees and Venus was at 6, so they're like around the same number of orbs apart in the sign of Aquarius, which is the opposite sign of where we have our Mercury and Venus. And in 1942, the sun was in Pisces. Right now we have our sun in Cancer, which is another water sign. So it's just really interesting to see how these patterns kind of show up over time. And you know, the slowest moving planet is Neptune, taking 14 years to travel through, around 14 years to travel through each sign. Give or take. Pluto takes, like it changes because of the way Pluto moves through our solar system. So it takes anywhere between like, I think 10 to 20 years, and in the sign of Aquarius it's going to take about 20 years. Like in Capricorn it took about like 18 or so years, I want to say. So yeah, Neptune was in Virgo in 1942. Now Neptune's in Pisces, and they were at 29 degrees. Like they're both at 29 degrees at the moment. So it's just really interesting to be aware of how things are playing out, and it's meant to evolve our soul. So like these are similar placements, but in, you know, most of them are in opposite signs. The sun the sun in 1942 was in Pisces, now it's in Cancer, so both water signs. So we can kind of think of this as a spiraling up, like an evolution of our experiences. In 1942, like that's what, 70, almost 80 years, 82 years ago. So if you know anybody that is old enough to remember what happened in 1942, it'd be interesting to hear what they experienced during that time, during the end of February, beginning of March. I mean, this is kind of, World War III, but it's a spiritual war. We're going to be seeing a lot of things come to light, and just a huge lifting of the veil. And I mean, the Wizard of Oz movie is very connected to what's happening now, like seeing what's behind the curtain, which is why it's very important to just prepare for the unexpected. Expect the unexpected. We could be completely surprised and shock and awe. Like the Uranus is all about shocking, unexpected events. And Neptune in Pisces is connected to creativity and dreams and spirituality, and as well as illusions and things that we don't see. And so with this sextile to Mars and Uranus, as well as Algol, there could be, and there was something that I read from, was it Reinhold Eberstein, Stellar Influences, and how he describes the Mercury-Uranus transits in connection to Neptune. There could be cunning and deceit, a low and mean way of acting, desire to harm others, a person with bad intentions, also swooning or fainting when overtaxing one's strength, a fit of rage or frenzy, raving madness, or accident. So, there's that energy as well, that potential theme. And Algol, as I've experienced it, whenever I would get just completely annoyed, it's a good thing I don't drive anymore, because whenever people would be assholes on the road, I would get this vertigo. I'd be pissed, and I would just kind of my head would spin a little bit. And Algol is said to have that theme of losing one's head, she was decapitated. And this is an energy of leaders losing their status, being beheaded, or it's more than just falling from grace. And so there's that potential. So just if this is going to affect, if it doesn't affect you directly, if you don't have something, a planet or a point, by point I mean ascendant, midheaven, descendant, IC, or your north or south node. If you don't have anything connected to 26 Taurus within a couple of degrees, it might not affect you directly, but you might be witnessing or observing this play out in the world, or you might be, maybe have a coworker or a partner, or, children who have this placement. So there can be an unexpected fit of rage with this particular transit. So this is why I love astrology, just so that you can, kind of prepare yourself. And if you do find that this placement is in your chart, or someone's chart that you're connected with, then you can kind of prepare yourself and know that, it's not something to fear. We don't want to create that energy at all. That's the complete opposite of what we want. We want to be able to trust that whatever plays out is meant to be. All the energies are in orchestration for our highest self. This is for our highest good. And that's the energy that we want to put into it. Just trust that whatever is happening in our favor, And we might not understand why exactly it's happening, but eventually we will come to realize these events are happening for our own good. So hopefully that made sense. Hopefully that was helpful. And another way to kind of prepare for this is to just know where your keys are, know where your important documents are. I mean, really anything can happen. Mars is the ruler of our north node, so just trust that the things that are going on is going to put us in the direction of our destiny. And while I'm at it, let's see, is that all I wanted to say about Uranus? Like physically too, this can be something that disrupts our nervous system, and so it can cause, this can be related to, you know, Mars is connected to blood, and so, you know, any operations or surgeries are not recommended to be scheduled during this time. I would say give it a good week or two before scheduling anything, before and after, because Mars also rules Scorpio and Aries. And Scorpio, I think I've heard Mars and Scorpio as being described as being like the sniper, like being very pointed and, like, you know, with the intention of fatality. And then Mars in the sign of Aries is more impulsive and just like shooting from the hip, just very, you know, like being first and, like, you know, just immediate impulsivity. Scorpio is a lot more, I guess you would call it, you know, you think about a sniper, it's very, there's a lot of thought that goes into decision with Scorpio. But this can also be like liberation, like, you know, Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, and the modern ruler of Aquarius. Saturn was is the traditional ruler of Aquarius. Saturn is also connected to limitations and structure and rules and regulations, and Uranus breaks those rules and thinks outside of the box and goes beyond limitations in order to see what else is out there. It's like it rules space and astrology and, like, just seeing what else is out there. I mean, besides Sagittarius, it's like an explorer, connected to, like, technology, space, like things that have connections to one another, like the nervous system. So if you think of our nervous system, how it's connected to all of our other, you know, fingers, toes, think of that kind of system with the Earth and the planets and the stars and, like, just, you know, like beyond. So we can have that feeling of wanting to break free, whether it's like a job or a relationship or any kind of, you know, commitment or confinement that you've been in that's been feeling stagnant. This can be that event that just breaks you out of that. It could be, you know, it could play out in tempers. And it could be a genius idea too. Like, you just, you know, it could be something that's taken away that kind of forces you to think outside of the box. Like, it could be anything that's kind of removed. I mean, yeah, there's so many ways that could play out. Like, you know, you have to improvise. You know, like, you run out of. I just saw this meme. Like, one of my friends who posted it back in like 2017 or 2018. Marcel Wilson. He, rest in peace. He was pretty clever, you know, beyond his years. But he had this post, and it was an empty roll of toilet paper, and written on the empty roll was the word improvise. You know, like, this is one of those moments where you're going to have to improvise, and it can lead to, like, a huge groundbreaking discovery. And, like, depending on where it sits in your chart, what house it is in your chart, yeah, it can, like, bring you huge success or creativity, or, you know, maybe you have, like, this impulse to completely change your style. Yeah, it could be a number of different ways. Yeah, unusual achievements through an extraordinary power of effort, inclination to act too hastily or prematurely, a danger or peril which has fortunately passed, the passing of a test of nerve, struggle for survival, accident, injury, operation. So, yeah, these are definitely exciting times that we are living in. So if we are alive at this moment, there's a reason for it. So I think we should definitely pat ourselves on the back for having come to this point, especially considering the past 4 or 5 years. So it's only going to get better. It's going to be disruptive, but in the best way. And we just have to trust that, like, all of this isn't for nothing, you know? We just have to stay grounded, stay centered, stay authentic, you know? Like, we have to really stay true to ourselves and be okay with individuation. Because with the South Node in Libra, we're letting go of those codependent tendencies, and the people that can, understand and support, your goals, then those are the real ones. Those are the ones to keep around. But if there is any sort of inclination where you're not feeling supported, like truly, like there's any doubt, then you want to confront it. Like confront it with maturity. Saturn in Pisces is all about spiritual maturity. And with Jupiter and Gemini, we're learning to use our words and approach things from a different perspective, like perspectives that we haven't been using before. And using our words in a more lighthearted kind of, just it is what it is, but in a lighthearted kind of way. And we can also experiment with, how things sound. And Gemini is all about experimentation as well, and we have this big air trine with Jupiter and Gemini, and the Libra placements in the South Node. Let's see, what else is about to move into Libra? The moon's about to move into Libra in the next couple days, so over the weekend. So when the big Mars-Uranus conjunction happens, which will be Monday, the moon will be in Scorpio. So it'll be building to the conjunction as the moon moves through Libra. And so when the moon moves through Libra, we're going to really feel this kind of like a circuit of communication with Jupiter in Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius, and the South Node in Libra, where we can have conversations, like mature conversations, that will lead us to productive outcomes, and we can be on this like understanding level of where we need to let go and why and how it's going to work out. So when it comes to the 15th, when the moon moves into Scorpio and it it's going to start opposing that Mars-Uranus conjunction. We could be definitely in our feelings, and like things will be stirred up. There could be all kinds of feelings connected to moon and Scorpio. Like it could be like guilt, shame, paranoia, and that's just part of the process. We can work through those. That's why the moon travels through each sign, so that we can experience those emotions. So yeah, hopefully that all made sense. And this Mars-Uranus conjunction is going to affect everybody, but particularly Aries and Scorpio, because they are Mars-ruled, and Aquarius because of Uranus. Uranus rules Aquarius. But also Virgos and Capricorns, because they are fellow Earth signs, and this takes place in Taurus, which is an Earth sign. So just check to see if you have anything in any of those signs at 26 or so degrees, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. You will be feeling this, and it's good to just remember to stay centered, stay grounded, and trust that this is all happening for our highest good. So, hopefully that made sense. Hopefully that was helpful. Thanks for listening. Thank you so much for the nice comments. I just really want to be able to prepare and like translate what's going on, because knowing is half the battle. Once you have this awareness, then we can be mentally prepared and know that like things are not happening to us, they are happening for us. So if you have any interest in knowing how these transits are affecting you personally, then definitely hit me up. Definitely love to soul explore and dive in. But yeah, hopefully I will see you on the next one. Alright, take care.